Welcome to the I Said It Was Cool podcast. Today's guest is Brendan Getzell. He is from San Francisco, California, and the reason I am interviewing him is because he happens to be the person that I wrote the song about. The song that corresponds with the podcast, which is the idea for the whole podcast series. He is going to do a pretty thorough introduction of himself at the beginning of this podcast, so I don't need to say much. However, I will say that he is one of the most interesting people I have ever met. Unique in every respect. He can play every instrument. He is so multi-talented. He is a fellow open mic host. That is, in fact, how we officially met the first time. Alex and I were on tour down the States, and he was hosting the open mic that we randomly decided to go to on a Monday night. And there he was, up there introducing all the artists, and I thought there's something very unique about this person. You're going to find out all about that in this podcast. So stay tuned, because he is something else. And I mean that in all the good ways that I could possibly mean it. Ding dong. Hi. My mother really wanted to say hello.
Hi, Brendan.
Hi. Hi.
Hey, I'll leave now.
Oh, you want to say
Merry
hello?
Christmas.
You have questions?
I said hello. No, I don't have any questions. Just nice to see you. Nice to see you online, being busy, doing your thing.
Yes, I have. Yes.
Yeah, I love it.
As much as I can in this whole situation.
I'm your biggest fan. Okay, here's Kendall.
Hi.
Special mom cameo.
Everyone has to do one. My mom is hundreds of miles from right here, so I can't do that. So.
What? Is she really?
Yeah, she's been around with me in San Francisco for years and years. She is up in Herlong.
Oh, you must miss her though.
Oh, I do. Yeah. No, we're obviously very close and everything, but yeah, I try to make it up. She had a bit of a health scare about a month ago. We're like launching right into this.
Yeah, let's just get serious right now.
She had pneumonia and they thought it was COVID and it wasn't. And then she recovered at a skilled nursing home. She's in her 80s now.
Wow. And
she tested positive in the nursing home. So they quarantined her and turned out it was a false test. So now she's home and just hiding. So, which is fine by me. Yeah, we FaceTime and stuff. We FaceTime 2 days ago. Yeah, and I mean 2 days ago was just after my birthday too. So, yeah.
Yeah, that was a great live stream.
Oh, you watched?
Yeah, it was hilarious.
Yes, I felt my banter was suffering.
No, I was killing myself laughing.
Okay, good. That's what I'm going for, I think. Yeah. And my co-quarantine friends, my wife and our neighbors, were in the garage with us, playing pinball, like right there. So there was a cacophony going on in the background. So how are you?
Good, great, very happy. Everything's good. I feel like it's too soon to even say that, because I want to back up and be like, who are you and why am I interviewing you?
Oh.
Because those are important questions.
Yes, they are.
Context,
Yeah. In the 15 minutes before hopping on this Zoom, and my life is Zoom now with my work and everything, I have like a little like Word doc up on the screen in big letters with the 7 or 8 things I want to talk about. So
that's great.
Just in case I forget anything about myself, which is entirely possible. Is there a format? Should I have some cards in my hand? What's the deal?
No, I have a loose template in my brain, which is basically we're going to talk about why we know each other.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and then it's just going to go from there. I do have some specific questions that I want to ask you, and it will take on the life that it wants to take on. So feel free to throw in those points that you wrote down that you don't want to forget. Anything you want to talk about, that's what I want to talk about.
Okay. Then, okay. So, people of internet land, this is how Kendall and I met. I'm Brendan Getzell, by the way. San Francisco Bay Area based singer, songwriter, musician, music producer, music teacher, sound human, musical director for cabaret things, and so on and so forth. Anyway, so that's me. And I also lost on Jeopardy. But getting back to this, the particular circumstance was, okay, so in San Francisco, I, at least in the pre-shelter-in-place times, I host an open mic at a venue called the Hotel Utah Saloon. This is in the South of Market District of San Francisco, California. It's a pretty well reviewed and well-respected open mic. We've won all kinds of readers' polls over the years for best open mic through what's called the Best of the Bay poll for all kinds of different entertainment, arts, food, shops, etc. We win best open mic most years that we're competing to be best open mic. Humble brag, as it were. So anyway, I've been hosting that since 2011. The following year, 2012. So what I do is, I host, I MC, I run sound, I introduce and run sound, and connect like probably around 4 to 5 dozen performers, maybe more than that on a particular night. All kinds of things: rock, singer, songwriter, folk, jazz, blues, spoken word, comedy, poetry, the occasional dancer, etc. It's fantastic. If you're bouncing through San Francisco, you should definitely make a Monday night out at the Hotel Utah open mics. Anyway, we get a lot of performers coming in from all kinds of places over the country, or even around the world, even as far away as other countries, such as, say, Canada. Trying to do a little bit of ironic understatement, eh? But anyway, so, we get people coming up from LA and up from San Diego, all the way out from New York, et cetera, or from elsewise, from Spain, from Japan, from Korea, wherever. Anyway, so a couple of performers came in from on a tour going southward from the greater Vancouver, Victoria area down through to Southern California and back. Their names were Alex and Kendall. And I have this picture that I use sometimes to promote the open mic. I like to get a shot of the crowd, of like this kind of wide shot of the crowd. There's 2 levels. There's this cool ass balcony at the top, and there's the kind of the main lower level. And sometimes on a spring or summer night, when it's about 7:55, the show's about to start, you get this great kind of backlit sunset kind of view of a few dozen people just waiting for their names to be called and to start the open mic. And what I have is right at the front is you and Alex just kind of sitting there. You're on your phone and I don't know.
Texting my mom.
Yeah, that would be the thing. That's what I do on mine. I have since, it's not the same phone. I've upgraded my phone.
Me too.
Yeah, I would hope so. Anyway, planned obsolescence. Woo! But getting back to this, both of them performed that night and introduced themselves to me, and it was great to meet them both. I remember you played a song called it's called "Single Life Revolution." Is that correct?
Oh,
That's what the song was.
Okay.
Yeah, I can still remember it. You make a Harry Styles reference in it, and there's more. You use the chord progression that 6-4-1-5 Eagle Eye Cherry kind of chord progression. Everyone loved it. It made an impression. It was really fucking cool. Can I occasionally use a curse word, or are there rules?
Oh, yeah. I don't know if you're a vapor, but you can vape, you can swear, whatever you want to do.
Okay. Welcome to Vaping and Swearing Out. Kendall Patrick. All right. Okay. So basically, like, we struck up a friendship over those next couple of days, because one of the things about this is that open mic is not just open mic on Monday. It is the gigs that everyone at that open mic has over the coming week. We ran into each other the next day. One of my favorite bars in San Francisco, El Rio, which is known as for instance, it's a very queer friendly spot. They have 3 different stages on which people perform there. They have since banned smoking in the backyard patio. It's the most, like, I'm personally not a smoker, but I get it. And that seemed like the most, I guess, chillest spot for people to do that and congregate and have fun. And like people are like, what? Yeah, go out to the front, whatever. Anyway, so I was playing a gig with my buddy Reese. Reese is a wonderful guitarist and banjo player. We play in a bluegrass band called the Dole Richards. We all met. You were there. Alex was there. My buddy Reese was there. His friend Leighton was there. I can't believe I remember all this.
I know.
And so we all got pupusas afterward. That's what I remember. We went to an El Salvadoran place not far from there. And we all hung out. We all exchanged numbers and everything. And then like we all saw each other again at a house concert.
That was the magic night.
Yeah, that was cool. That was cool. That was at my buddy Mr. Andrew's house. Mr. Andrew, do you remember Mr. Andrew?
Was he an old man?
No.
Okay.
He was a younger, blonde, curly-haired chap. Sometimes he has a little like kind of goatee kind of situation.
Was there an old man there?
Was there an old? I mean, there probably was an old man. That could be our friend Jimmy. if he had these like kind of fab-looking glasses on and was kind of creepy, that was Jimmy.
I feel like that could be it. I'm having this memory just being drudged up from the bowels of my subconscious of an old man at this party. But I don't know if that's really a real memory, if I'm mixing it up with something.
I have a feeling that is a real memory.
Yes, because I think people were warning me about a creepy factor. And that was good because I had to seek shelter, protection to certain people. And I had already made friends previously, so I felt like I knew where to go.
Yeah, that's the great thing about it. If you go to one show and you hit kind of 3 different places over that week and you have a bunch of friends. That's what the scene is great for.
Okay, so this is a good place to interject because I remember on that trip, Alex and I were not having like the best time until right around then. It was like something was kind of dead. There was a vibe we were going through that was not right.
So, we're in San Francisco. And, this place is fucking weird. Nobody likes us.
And then as soon as we went to that open mic, things exploded for us because of how friendly everybody was, how many friends we made so quickly, and then all the invites started happening. And ever since that first day, the rest of the trip it turned into like a magic fantasy.
I am very pleased that us and that event and our city, which has gone through so much flux over the years, that this scene had that impact. And I do remember you in later months around that time saying the same thing to me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so cool. Yeah. And then your tour continued southward after that, I think. And then you swung back through. You did like LA and did you go to San Diego or did you stop at LA?
We went to Santa Monica. And Venice Beach.
Cool. Yeah. Well, that's where I went after I lost on Jeopardy.
No.
The next day, took a Uber over to like Venice Beach, walked on the beach all the way to Santa Monica, went to, of all places, Hooters.
Really?
Yeah,
Were you really depressed?
I was sad and I wanted to just eat some crap. Frankly, if we're talking about gender normative male gaze kinds of things, the Hooters aesthetic does not do it for me. Yeah, well, I'm not. It's work in food service industry. These are essential workers, Kendall. But I met a man. I met a conspiracy theorist named Luther there, and he had a Siberian Husky with him who was super cute. So anyway, that was what I remember from that. That is a massive interjection. Why am I? Anyway,
it's a good one. I was wondering how you were feeling after that Jeopardy, because I mean it is a thrill just to be on it, regardless of the outcome. But of course, when you lose, you can't help but feel sad.
Yeah, I spent a long time replaying the game in my head a little bit, a lot bit, like in the shower. Like I'll remember something that I did and just be mad at myself. The big one was that like I pulled a straight up Cliff from Cheers thing where I got a Final Jeopardy category that I liked and I bet everything and I blew the final question.
Oh.
And it was a category in politics and I'm a political science major from college. So that was not psyched about that. But it was, again, dream come true. It was like totally like my in the chocolate factory experience.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty great. And Trebek was funny. I also underwagered on my daily doubles.
Oh.
That's where I bollocksed it up real bad. There was one on labor unions where I wagered $800. That's it. I should have wagered $12,000. Anyway, look at what animates me now. That was December 2013 that we recorded, and March 2014 that it aired, and I'm hashtag still mad about this.
Oh, there's always going to be those moments. I mean, there's classic memes about laying in bed in the middle of the night, and that's what you think of. Your worst moment, your biggest regret.
Yeah, waking up in a cold sweat thinking about the mascot of the Prohibition Party, which was the final Jeopardy question that I missed.
Ugh.
Yeah. So.
What was it?
Oh, okay. So let me do this in the Alex Trebek phrasing, because every clue that he gives kind of has a clue embedded in it. So you're not just flying blind. So you kind of piece things together. So it was appropriately in 1908, this animal was selected to be the mascot for the Prohibition Party. And then the music starts. All right. So I'm sitting there thinking, okay, prohibition. What's an animal that signifies getting drunk? And I found myself in a cul-de-sac there. I found myself with no answer. I was in a mental dead end, freezing out on national television with that amazing song playing.
Do 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 do.
Okay, so this is a very Clockwork Orange, not the night kind of moment right there. So I had to back up afterwards, and the real issue is it's not about an animal that doesn't get drunk. It's about what's an animal that's associated with not consuming water at all.
Cactus? Even though that's not
You're on the right track. Try to go more fauna than flora, and you're going to get it.
Lizard? Is that I don't know what fauna means.
Okay, so like plants versus animals. So if you get an animal, what
animal doesn't drink? Fish?
Well, what animals doesn't have to drink a lot at all? Cactus is hecka close.
A Scorpio? I mean, scorpion?
I'll give you one more stab at this. Go bigger. Bigger animal, doesn't drink water. Or doesn't drink a lot of water at all. I appreciate that you are making the face that I made on national television.
I don't know.
And the answer was a camel.
Oh,
see?
Okay.
And I made that face too. Yeah. So you have gone through the same mental journey that I have. We have both walked that path now. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm not half as smart as you either, so I'm glad that I ventured into the right territory. Of course. Okay, so a camel lives in the desert where there isn't a lot of water.
Yeah.
So it has to adapt to not drinking water very often. Okay,
exactly.
So cactus was a really good answer if it was an animal.
Right. No, okay. So there's some video games that I played when I was a kid where there's walking cactuses that walk around and stuff. So I feel that. And in a sense, a porcupine is kind of like an animal cactus.
Is it? Does it hold water for long periods of time?
I don't know the water patterns.
Oh.
Armadillo. So that
the similarity is
so that
just
doesn't
the
match.
spikes.
Yeah, that doesn't match up with the clue. Yeah.
Darn it.
Yeah. So now that we lived that. So one of the cool things about the open mic is that okay, so Kendall came through, you came through. I'm speaking of you in the third person in front of you.
I'll pretend I'm not here.
That's some bullshit right there. That's not cool. So you came through on tour, and what the cool thing about open mics is you meet people from out of town. You can go on tour where they go. So flash forward a few months, August of, I guess this would be 2012. I did a little driving tour up north, up Highway 5. So I went to Portland, stopped in Eugene, Olympia, Seattle, and then ended up taking the ferry from whatever that town is with it's a long name, 5 or 6 letter. Sawasan?
Oh yeah, Sawasan.
Oh, I got it. Cool. And I wrote all my little tour diaries while I was on the boat, and
I remember you messaging me ahead of time, being so confused about the idea that there's a boat. It's not understanding that you can take your car on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
the whole car on the boat thing was a trip for me. That seemed, I guess it makes sense that a car can go on a boat, But for some reason that seemed alien to me because we have ferry boats going all around San Francisco Bay Area. And they're not that size. They're commuter ferry boats.
Right.
More so than they are
Big one.
gravel 7-deck, I'll never let go Jack style boats. So we ended up kind of touring around a little bit on the island. We did like 3 shows, I think.
I know we went to a house show. We may have gone to the Duncan showroom.
We did the Duncan Garage
Okay.
with what's his face, Longevity John.
Yeah.
That's the guy's name. Yeah. That was cool. And then we did a house concert. And the first one was somewhere north. That was amazing. And I got to meet some cool people up there. And I remember neighbors yelling at us about the house show being too loud.
Really?
Yeah. And they called us fucking narcissists.
Oh,
And I remember I was thinking, that was a choice. That's cool.
interesting. Wow.
Yeah, so I'm good with remembering people's word choices. We went to the museum in Victoria and I ate at a White Spot.
Oh, that's my favorite restaurant. You don't have those in the States?
No, every locale has its equivalent restaurant. Like I don't know, that would be like a Chili's or something down here, or I hesitate to say like Applebee's because I would not be caught in an Applebee's. Kid. But yeah, everywhere I go has that. Like when I went to Tennessee a bunch a few years ago, and they have an equivalent, a restaurant that reminded me acutely of White Spot called O'Charlie's. But they had the most like ridiculous calorie bomb cheesecakes there. These ridiculous like caramel infused cheesecakes that they should have put like a little map to the hospital on the plate.
You guys in the States, you go big or go home. Like even Applebee's, I remember going there one time in my life and just the small size of a pop was huge.
Yep, we got some ridiculous portions here. Yeah, for real. So that was amazing. Kept in touch for a while after that, and we've checked in over the years.
Okay, so are you uncomfortable with saying that we had a little tryst?
Is that the word we want to use?
I don't know. I don't even know the exact definition. But we engaged in what I would call a long distance relationship that was really difficult emotionally. And I wrote a song about it. And that song I wrote a few songs about it, but that song is on my upcoming album.
I wrote a few as well.
Yeah. So, okay. Funny story. Just the other night, my friend, she dated a guy in a band and then they broke up and he wrote a song about her when they were together. And even though they've broken up, he just released the song and they're not on talking terms right now. So she's messaging me and our other friend being like, now I love him again, or I don't know what I feel. Why are you releasing this? Like, I hate you and I love you and I hate you. And so I was saying, yeah, I wish somebody had written a song about me. And then after I said that, I remembered that you did write such a beautiful song and you played it on your live stream.
Yeah, I wrote that on the ferry boat on a windy night on the boat. It's called My Heart Is Always in a State of Revolution.
It's always in a state of revolution. That's a long name.
Yeah, it is I think I mentioned as in that stream that it was the longest title in my catalog.
It's so gorgeous though, that song. And I don't say that just because it's about me. On its own, aside from that.
Appreciate that.
It's such a beautiful song. Yeah, I remember hearing it for the first time and having that jaw-dropping moment. And it was really nice to hear it recorded too. And then I went to your Bandcamp and there's another song there. And I listened to that and thought, damn it, I feel really guilty now because it was like the Heartbreak edition.
Yeah. So you found that on my Bandcamp. The little cover picture I had of Bandcamp was
the BC fairies.
Was 2 BC fairies. Anyway, yeah. So I can talk about those a little bit. So those were recorded in my friend Tommy's home studio. He ended up being the lead guitarist in my band, the Getz.
The Getz.
Yeah.
Well, you have such a great last name, by the way.
Thank you. So Getzell, it's got 2 L's in it.
And a Z.
The second L was added in the 50s when my dad's side wanted to become less Jewish. Before that, it was just Getzell. Getzell, like rhymes with pretzel. Now it's Getzell, more rhymes kind of like gazelle, I suppose. Before that, it was Russian. It was Glenevsky.
Wow.
Was the prominent name in our family. My grandfather's name is Solomon Getzell, which is like, I heard you like Jews, so I'm going to put a little Jew in your Jew so you can be even more Jewy. I'm named after an Irish playwright, Brendan Behan.
Really? And Brendan is also the name of my brother. So that was interesting, dating someone with the same name of my brother.
I recall that you had a number of Brendans around you.
Yes, there was another Brendan that I dated previous.
Mm-hmm.
That's weird.
I recall this. No.
I do feel so, just like bittersweet about that whole thing because I ended up meeting Chiro after you had gone back. And Chiro and I ended up just about getting married. And you are married now.
Yes.
When did that happen?
That happened the very beginning of this year. So I met my now wife, Lindsay. She is a prominent member of the overall kind of performing and circus and bohemian kind of scene here. And she's also a model. She works with a corset shop in San Francisco called Dark Garden Corsetry. They also have a location in New Orleans. She's a photographer, a banjoist. She works in the tech and gaming industry for Logitech, who does a lot of webcams and stuff.
Wow.
So she does like a little bit of everything. Anyway, we'd had this kind of minor crush on each other for a while. But neither of us could do anything about it because we were both in relationships and whatever. And then we both weren't in relationships. We slid into each other's DMs a little bit. And then I met her for the first time at a great San Francisco venue called DNA Lounge. Prince has played there and some other people played there. And they do burlesque nights once a month, a burlesque troupe called Hubba Hubba, which is the premier burlesque dancing group in the Bay Area. And so we met and we're like, hey, it's you. And I asked her out and we went out about 2 weeks later. She made me wait. And it was pretty much love at first sight from then. And that was March of 2019. And we kind of knew about 6 months in that we found something really, really special. And she went up with me to Seattle later that fall for my cabaret show, Mystery Cabaret, which I'll talk about later. And while she was up there with me, we went to a serene park in the Queen Anne district of Seattle, and I popped the question. And we went, and this ended up being a very smart decision given everything that's happened. We eloped to New Orleans and got married under a very famous tree there called the Tree of Life in Audubon Park. And we had the most wonderful, magical time. I wore a corset that was tailored especially for me.
A corset?
Yeah. So corsets, there are amazing all gender corsets.
Oh.
Corsets actually, I can't believe this factoid is going to make it into this this podcast. But corsets have their origins from British soldiers as a posture thing.
Wow.
Going back to the 19th century and before. Two things about them. One, you can breathe in them a lot easier than you think. Two, the posture thing, they're not kidding. You feel like you're 6 inches taller when you wear them. The third thing, which is necessarily not as relevant to your daily life, is that you can slam 3 or 4 drinks in a corset and not feel them. And then the second you loosen the corset, you better find something to hold on to. So, yes, the more you know.
Okay, where were we?
Who knows?
Oh yeah, okay. So the song that I'm releasing on this album that's about our long distance relationship and how difficult that was. It's called Back and Forth. I don't know if you recall. I probably sent it to you, and it turns out to be a favorite, fan favorite. Anytime I play it anywhere, even my dad loves that song, and my dad doesn't usually like any slow songs that I write.
This is not the one that mentions a paper tambourine?
Yes.
Oh, it is that one.
Yeah.
It wasn't slow then, was it?
I feel like it's slow, but maybe that's just my perception.
My memory on this shit is ridiculous. I thought it was at about this tempo, but I can't remember exactly.
It kind of is. I guess when I say slow, I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean what I doesn't necessarily mean slow. What do I mean by that? Because it's certainly a feeling, like an emotional feeling. It's not a dance song, that's for sure.
Right. No, I get where you're going with that. I think if it falls in the overall like kind of ballad umbrella, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's like songs can have different tempos and do that for real.
Yeah. Maybe that's what I mean. It's actually a really good point to bring up, because even though I'm a lyricist and I love words, I can have a really difficult time describing things sometimes, especially when it comes to music. And I've learned this through the mixing process when I'm trying to give notes or something doesn't sound right or feel right, but I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, what I've found for a number of things, particularly like certain timbres of sound for, I don't have a good vocabulary for saying, do I detect hints of this? It's more of a round taste. The mouth feel, it's that, but music. If I'm playing a synthesizer or something like that, and someone says, do you think you could add a little bit of the filter of the LFO? I'm mostly lost. I can tell you, wait, no, turn the knob, that sounds better. Turn the knob that's not as good.
Yeah.
I'm that guy. I'm a practical person with the sound, and I feel like we have common ground on that.
Yeah, and it can be frustrating for people who aren't like that and do have the language, and they're trying to make it sound the way you want it to sound, especially if they're mixing stuff for you. They want to do a good job. And I'm like, but the vibe is off. This communication is so difficult. Anyway, it's good to know that you can be just as prolific and still not know how to talk about what you're doing.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I think both of us there's a natural element to both of us in terms of how we do things. And sometimes that can run up against other people's processes. Mm-hmm. Music itself, I'd say music overall is the area where I think I have the most cross knowledge of being technical, but also being feel oriented. And so it's fun to be able to explain things in multiple ways. There's the person who's they're a total songbird and they just feel their way through everything. And the person who is exact and clinical on this. I like being able to talk to both of those people, but so many other fields in art and production, I'm very subjective in how I talk. I can't put it in their language on it, Yeah, so I feel that.
Okay, so here's another point that you might not actually want to talk about, but I'm going to bring it up because I really want to talk about it. If you don't, that's totally fine. But along the lines of trying to relate to other people, you have a sensory processing condition. Am I correct?
Yes, I am on the overall autism spectrum. It is not official anymore, but I was diagnosed Asperger when I was, when I say it's not official, I mean the term Asperger has become, I think it is out of some of the official psychiatric and psychological manuals on this. So that would leave me as a high functioning autist. And this manifests itself in a number of ways. I was diagnosed when I was 13 and I was not told by my family, or at least they don't remember I don't remember them telling me until I was 25. And my mom inadvertently told me.
I remember you telling me that now.
Yeah.
How shocking that is that you went all that time and nobody told. How do you think it would have changed things for you if you had been told?
It's a fucking fascinating counterfactual for my life in that I was just okay enough where I could thrive in certain situations and it was worth it to see if I go out, succeed or fail or what. I think overall, I think I would rather have known, but I know also in terms of not just whatever my difference is, however it manifests itself, but also just in terms of maturity, which can have its own track and be its own thing. I don't know if I was mature enough as a teenager to be able to accept that, internalize it, and be a non-static person about it. There are, of course, huge differences within the autism spectrum and all kinds of other conditions. And one of them is the degree of adaptability, the degree of non-staticness, the degree of being able to manage and create routines and patterns and processes that allow you to learn and grow from them. And it's a different journey for everyone. For me, I found that every 1 year I'm a little bit better than I was the year before. Right now in 2020, I think I'm a better person than I was when you met me. I mean, I hope. But I do know that just generally my processes are better. However, everything that was a part of me then is still there. And I still feel that. And it's a social thing. It definitely affected my ability to ever quote unquote like hustle and make it in the music scene. I mean, I'm eminently comfortable on stage and everything, but I have everything else fright, the way people have stage fright.
Oh, okay. That's really interesting because I mean, you stuck out to me right away first of all, because you're the host. So of course you're going to, but then you're extremely funny, super witty, and just like amazing with what you were doing up there in the moment, the whole improvising thing that we do as open mic host, which I wasn't back in the day, but now I've been doing that.
Right, I remember.
Yes, I feel a solidarity with you. Yeah, and it's really special to me. I love it so much. And but yeah, I remember you were just like incredibly fascinating as a human being to watch and be entertained by. And there's something going on with your eyes too that were like, they're like a little shifty, but like also so magnetizing. And so it makes so much sense when you told me that later on. But it's interesting that you say you're so good on stage, but have the fright everywhere else.
First, about the eyes. The classic symptom, such as it is, or kind of like life expression that's closely associated with Asperger, is the ability to look people in the eye. I suck at that. If I'm doing that, I'm trying really, really, really hard. 5 seconds into me having a thought, my eyes just go everywhere. My eyes dart around just kind of all the time. It's just a natural kind of thing. People do that and people talk about that, but it's a frustrating thing because eye contact in American culture elsewhere is closely associated with honesty and integrity. And so not doing that is thus inversely associated with deception, dishonesty, secrets, duplicity, or insecurity, when it's really just like my fucking nervous system overloading. The way I best describe it is my brain is a search engine that yields a shit ton of results, many of which are not relevant to what I search for. And me being normal is me sifting through those as fast as I can to find the relevant results.
Okay, that sounds exhausting.
It is. And people on different points and different levels and different conditions on the spectrum and everything, that sensory overwhelm I'm fortunate I am in a manageable and growable kind of mental state about these things. Anyway, the things that are easy for others are hard for me. The way like millennials use the phrase adulting and all that. That's some of the things that, like, some logistical things are the things that I might leave hanging just because I don't like cold calling people. Some of those things have been tough for me. It's changed over the time. I'm like nervous. I'm like twisting my hands around while I'm talking and everything. So
it's real.
Yeah, no, it's real. But yeah. But I know that every year it's a little bit easier and a little bit better than the year before because I know more about myself. And there's a great Asperger autobiography or a memoir that I read called Pretending to be Normal, My Life with Asperger. I forget the author, but I think about the idea of pretending to be normal all the time, that it's essentially like I said, picking the right result. Once you are good at that, what's the distinction really?
And what's the point?
Yeah.
Like, if you didn't have to try, if you just got to be completely uninhibited, what would that look like? Would that feel better? Or would you feel uncomfortable because you know you're not being normal? Sorry, I'm obsessed with psychology and all this kind of stuff. Like, mental illness and addiction are huge things in my life. And I also have worked with autism closely for a long time. I was already starting to work with a boy. I worked with him for 7 years. Me and Cheryl were just about to adopt him. He was part of my full-time life, and he had really severe autism. He was like the greatest thing ever. I miss him so much. But I parted ways with his caregivers. It's so interesting to me, and it's so humanizing too, because honestly, normal, everybody feels like they're not normal in a way, but we all experience this like outsider thing in different ways. And sometimes it's clinical, and then sometimes it's something else, And so that's also one of the things that I wanted to do with this podcast was like get real with people about what it's like to be me, or what it's like to be a musician, what it's like to deal with this. Like, I talk about addiction a lot in my podcast. That's like my main problem, or has been, can be. I've been in recovery for a long time, but what was I going to say? The title of my album is I Said It Was Cool, because that's something I used to do a lot, is I'm fine, it's cool, it's good. Like, lying all the time so that I don't have to deal with people thinking that I don't have my shit together. And so I can fall apart behind the scenes but keep the facade up. And that's like such a theme for codependency, for one thing, and that's something I struggle with not so much anymore, because I crashed and burned so hard, and I've worked my ass off to get better at that, to get better at learning how to put myself first and telling the truth and being honest and being like, what do I want, what do I need, and actually getting serious about that instead of constantly being everybody else's savior, or so I thought. So yeah, this idea of I Said It Was Cool, I like it because it's the lie. So the title of the album is The Lie. But then the podcast and the songs are the truth. So that's why I'm asking you, and I totally understand if you don't want to talk about it. It seems like you do. You're being very open with me.
I do. No, it's just, it struck me in a very deep spot. I think in mentally preparing for this interview, or this hangout, as it were, I anticipated discussing the other thing we talked about earlier, and we did that. But I didn't get my butterflies deck in order for the other part. So I think about that. In fact, I remember you said something almost like word for word what you just said about 3 minutes ago or so. You said that to me when we were in Canada, about the idea of, as the colloquialism, just being crazy all day was the term. Obviously, we're being unguarded with our words at that time and everything. So, I mean, we have understanding for people, and we have understanding for differences, and you're the weird one, not me. Sometimes high functioning autists, Asperger's, others can be, they sometimes use the term wrong planet to describe themselves. But getting back to this, I've thought about that ever since, because you said, I feel like to be that way. At that point, I had spent about 5 years or so kind of grappling with my new knowledge myself and how it affected previous relationships, previous work and music and performing opportunities, and just my interactions with people on the daily basis, all the way down to my food choices. And how routine I was, and how stuck and ultimately dependent on a lot of safe choices I was. I was risk averse a lot in my life in certain ways. That's not to say that I wasn't brave in a lot of others, and that other high functioning autists are not brave in others. They certainly are. But that's that struggle. I want to be where everyone is, and I want to succeed, and I want to ascend, and I want to play by everyone's rules, which I don't want to limit myself there, but I want to be in it with everyone. And so I sometimes feel like that prescription for myself of just letting go and just letting my flag fly in that way, just completely. Like, I'm surrounded by instruments. You can't see it on the camera, but there's 3 pianos and 4 guitars and a ukulele and a mandolin and a bass just off of camera right now. Here, there, right? I could just dive into all that right now and just be Brendan, just doing this all night. And I mean, I want to. I'm working on an album right now. It's been way too long since I've released music. It's been 5.5 years. But it's like I've thrown so much good investment after good of trying to integrate my mind and everything else. And I don't have a good answer there, I guess.
Just don't know what it would be like. Well, what about when you're alone? Nobody's around. Do you still have that conditioning in your head?
Oh yeah. No, I talk to myself all the time. I mean, that's just been my pattern just all my life. And I sometimes get called out on that. And then I realize that maybe not everyone's like that in that way. I fill my schedule a lot lately. These 9 months since COVID have been some of the busiest months of my life. I mean, I teach 25 music students a week via Zoom, but I also been doing show after show after show. All right, and that's getting on something interesting. there's been this huge discussion about like, we shouldn't be so hard on ourselves for not being productive right now, because this whole thing, this whole pandemic, this whole drastic change of our life situations, and then here in the States, the way that different states have thrived more than others, and some have received more aid from the government than others and some not, has left this situation where it's kind of been a low-grade trauma for everyone, and we shouldn't beat up on ourselves for not, this is your chance to be productive. Doesn't work that way for everyone, but it's worked that way for me.
It tends to for the artistic types.
Yeah. The fact that I am able to keep my work and not have to like drive somewhere to do it, that I'm lucky to have a pretty decent income going through all this, and to have a nice place and a pretty decent place to live. I live in Oakland now, just east of San Francisco. Yeah. But yeah, it's just like I'm a couple subway rides away from San Francisco anytime. Although I have not taken the subway since March. But anyway, I've kind of made kind of a version of the life that I would want if I was just sitting by myself. And that's just making music all the time. I want to perform. I want to be on stage, and I can only make a video camera version of that here. But I've kind of have a version of the life I want. It's interesting. And I know that in like about 6 months or so, 9 months, something like that, it's going to change. And we're going to go back. And I wonder how I can kind of keep some of this model of my life going forward. Mm-hmm. It doesn't necessarily have to be on the, like, what's the word I'm looking? Plane, metric, spectrum? One of those, yeah, of the mind's association with reality. It can just be incorporating my musical and creative pursuits into everything, because I feel like I've given them short shrift over many years. I've been an academic tutor. I don't know what throwing my hand... I think about that, just circling back, I guess. I don't know what me mentally throwing off all the things that I perceive to be not me is anymore. There's too much of a blur between, like, if there is, I don't know if there is a real me and a fake me, because the fake me is real me trying to be fake. So fake me thus is also real me. It's all me. It's all you. Yeah. Me communicating or missing a cue, which is that like it's actually funny. Like going back, that album I made, so I was working on it when we met, and then I finished it about a year and a half later. My producer was facing some of his demons, and so it took us a little while to finish things, and I went through various levels of motivation, and I finally got it over the finish line. I put out an album several years ago called Better Late Than Never, which it was a lyric from a song, but it was also ironic and funny because it took so long to make the record. But also it was a metaphor for my lack of communication, for being overwhelmed by things. And then maybe I come around and I do it, but I don't do it on time. The talking to someone, the teenager waiting until 2 days before the dance to ask the girl, and she's obviously going to say no at that point. That kind of thing. Like there's there's grown-up versions of that. And so that album ended up being, I kind of thought about the lyrics over the years, a concept album about the inability to communicate.
Wow.
Precise, my inability to communicate.
And would you say that your song Missing a Cue is kind of the anchor point to that album?
It's one of the couple of songs on there that I like most, and it's kind of the most mission statement-y of that idea, I guess.
And it's so powerful. It's anthemic. Is that a word?
Yeah, sure it is. There's 7 songs on that record. 2 of them I wrote in 20 minutes. I wrote Missing a Cue in like 20 minutes.
You're kidding. That song is so incredible.
I wrote it. I was sitting at a piano in my house in the Castro district of San Francisco. And my friend Danielle, I jokingly commented on one of her Facebook pictures, and she was like, "You should write a song about me." And I'm like, "Okay, I will." And it wasn't about her. It was about me. She was an assistant stage manager for a musical that I was playing an orchestra for. And I walked up to her, but I got all tongue-tied trying to talk to her. And I felt really ashamed of my communication at that moment. And I realized that I've had so many conversations that felt just like that. And every word of that, I wrote that song just absolutely linearly. I came up with the piano, it's a classic chord progression.
It's so good.
it's that same kind of basic 6-4-1-5 thing that it's all over the place. I threw in inversions. I had this little melody over it that kind of guided the chords, and it felt the most effortless of any song I've ever. It felt like it just kind of happened. And there's these build-ups and stuff that happen. There's like, I decided around the floor, I want this part to be this like percussive bum 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 bum, and I just did it, and it just happened. And I had every word within like 20 minutes.
Isn't that ironic?
You're saying that my ability to convey words in that moment is ironic, given that my ability to convey words to another human is sometimes, or at least I perceive to be sometimes, stunted.
Well, the irony is that you're writing about your inability to communicate, but your ability to communicate that thought is flawless and effortless.
Yeah, put me alone with a song and something that I feel profoundly about, either profoundly positive or profoundly embarrassed or profoundly whatever, and then it'll come out. Interestingly, I've been kind of away from songwriting a little bit. I've finished one song this year.
Oh, I haven't written a song in 2.
Okay. Then, well, you are one of the top songwriters I've ever met in my life. So and I've thought that and put that in writing multiple times. And so I will not be, in the furthest sense, one of these like, what are you doing when you write songs? I'm not, no.
I think I'm like you in the sense that, like, when I write, it's really honest. That's the medium, though. That's what it's for, is to pull out, like, the deep shit that I, like, really just need to say. I need to express this thing. You know, that's really authentic. And I am going through right now, like I said before, I had this, like, massive breakdown. I don't want to be too descriptive, but I had a total breakdown and I was just done, absolutely finished with life. And it was because I just like kind of run out of energy. And I realized afterwards, because I went to treatment afterwards for 3 months, which was amazing to like get out of society for 3 months. I wanted to do that forever. It's just like, go live in a mental institution or something. Like, lock me away so I don't have to get up and be on time and go to it and face this feeling and that feeling and be responsible. Like, even though I've been doing these things, it's always been a dream of mine to not have to do it. And so it's kind of amazing to be removed from society and removed from me trying to manage my own life and have somebody else just tell me what to do all the time. And in that time, I learned why I was so tired and that I was actually expending so much energy in the wrong ways, like fatally wrong ways. And since then, I've been trying to embody these new belief systems and practice this opposite reality in many ways to the way that I was living before. And I have thought about, well, do I want to write about this yet? And it's like, no, like I just want to keep practicing. I just want to keep practicing this new embodiment of this new version of myself. I guess it's like I had all these computer updates. There was like a whole bunch of viruses and they got cleaned out. And now I'm just like practicing operating in this much better way. And it hasn't lost its novelty yet. It still means so much to me. I don't know. Like I don't feel like I need to sit down and express it because I'm not like working something out. I don't know. See, I'm not there yet. I haven't figured out the reason for not being in the writing phase yet. I'm okay with that because I know when I do write, it's going to be for the right reasons. But like the connection there was that you're connecting to something like really, really honest in yourself. And that's why it was so easy for you to, I don't know, like you're not talking to a person. It's like you're talking to the paper and the pen. Or there's a relationship there between you and your medium that is unencumbered and you're not feeling the fright. That's just so interesting to me. That you've got a safe place there. And so it's coming out really easily. And I feel like that when I write, it's just like, it's so personal. It's just me.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, obviously that makes so much sense. And I see so much of my process and my priorities in that. Obviously, it's going to be unique. I tend to write most in the periods of tumult. The wins for me personally are a little bit calmer, and I'm more of a writer from myself. It all comes from me. I'll write political songs and that kind of thing. But if I'm in a calm place, it's that idiom and truism about art coming from pain and that kind of thing. And accessing that pain, it's a different place, I suppose, right now. And I'm working through how to access that. I'm not ready to write yet. I write when I want to, when I'm walking somewhere and listening to music and suddenly like a lyric hits me in the head and there's something I want to talk about. Like even now, like I said, like the difference between me being just crazy all the time or me being pretending to be normal all the time. I think about that challenge and how it affects my communications with my friends, my communication in my marriage, my communication everywhere. And it matches some of my insecurities. All my life I've had like a fear of abandonment, but some of that is a confidence thing. And confidence is one of those really double-edged sword kind of things to talk about, because sometimes confidence can be merged with toxicity and one can be mistaken for the other. You can hear in what I'm saying now that I'm just going so many places. There isn't a center to my thoughts right now. And I think when I have a center, this thing happened that made me elated. This thing happened that made me mad and sad. I write more.
Yeah, that's right on the money, actually, because I'm not sad and I'm not mad. I'm not suffering at all. I mean, that's like an amazing place in my life. But part of that is I am in this place because of a real painful crash and burn. And I've been focusing on living differently so that I don't get myself in those situations anymore. But one thing that I have noticed about myself is that I have a very strong avoidance towards feeling sad. I don't want to watch anything sad on TV. I saw a trailer the other day that made me really emotional and actually felt terror, which made me go, the things that I went through a few years ago, I still have issues with, like, I'm still really emotionally affected by them and I don't really want to look at them to process the feelings, because I have done a chunk of that, but I'm like, I'm taking a break. I'm just living in a way that's not going to bring me back to that place. But I think when I'm ready, I gotta go back there emotionally and just like look at that stuff and process it a little bit more. I don't want to feel it right now. I'm like so happy and so glad that I made it. I made it to the other side and I like found a way to live differently instead of just like going back to the same old shit. So yeah, like when you say we're right out of tumult, that's so true. And I used to romanticize tumult. A certain part of my pain I was a bit in love with because it sparked so much creativity. But for some reason, this like last part of my life, it wasn't romantic at all. I was just like, oh, fuck it, I don't want to live anymore. And that's not creative. That's not a creative space to be. So I think I do have to go there if I'm going to write again. Aha! Moment. Yeah, okay. Thank you for helping me get there. Now I know. Now I know.
I will not appropriate your scale of highs and lows for myself on this.
Oh, feel free. I'm not special. I know that. I'm just a human going through human stuff.
Yes, and that's what I perceive of myself too. Like my last pure, unadulterated tumult and raw period was about 2 years ago this time. 2 years ago this time, my previous relationship had ended. It kind of ended with more of a whimper than a bang. It was a 6-year relationship that was with a really wonderful person and a great friend. This is my ex-girlfriend, Corey, whom I met not long after our tryst. We'll stay. It's a good word.
Okay.
I like it. It's got a Y as a vowel in it. It makes me happy.
Yeah.
But getting back to this, it was a wonderful relationship, but we had different needs, and some of those needs were geographical. And she wanted to move back to Tennessee to be close to her family. And we had thought about being Nashville, and I would have been interested because, Nashville music and everything, but I still would have been starting from scratch. And I'm very wary to start from scratch.
You're a San Francisco man.
That's the thing, is that even if I went somewhere that was like a music hub, if I went to Nashville, if I went to New York, if I went to LA, if I went to Chicago, even Vancouver is a great music scene. Toronto has some kind of scene. 2 cities from Canada.
Sorry, Nanaimo, that's where it's at.
I'm sorry. Well, you got the Parkway and you got the Highway. The Parkway you can go faster on than the Highway, which makes no sense to me, by the way. But getting back to this, it turned out that she needed to move to Memphis, and Memphis was not, it couldn't work for both of us. And so we parted on very, very good terms. And in that period, I had never had a like flail around and sow oats as they were kind of experience in my life of like dating casually and doing stupid shit and everything. And so I vowed to have a doing stupid shit kind of period. And I did. And December of 2018 was kind of my fucked month. And I kind of was just flailing. But the thing was, is I was writing a ton of music. I was carrying around my little journal with me and I was just write. And I was just throwing my heart in every direction. And it was not healthy. Or maybe it was. I mean, I don't know if there was a need I was seeking or whatever. I wanted to have the fun that people who were freer had, because I thought it was something that my ex and I did not have in our relationship in that way or something, or I felt like it was a need or something like that. And I ended up making a few, I don't know, I guess you could say mistakes, but it's not exactly, I don't know. I met someone in Seattle when I was up there that one time. I go to Seattle about 3-4 times a year for the cabaret show that I do. And I was like, all right, cool. I did a 2-night thingy. Cool. All right, great. Cool. All right. I'm going to be cool about this. I'm not going to just throw my heart into this. She's cool. We're just going to go on, be friends, whatever. And then I leave back to the house I was staying at. And then she texted one of those like faces with the hearts all over it emojis. And then I was like, oh no, I know what you're about to do, Brendan. And we texted very intensely for a while and then it faded. And then I felt like I kept putting too much of my heart into these things. And I realized that I can only be myself. And I'm a romantic, but I don't want to be toxic and overwhelming and I don't want to have a 1-speed emotional transmission. I want to be anticipating the needs and feelings of others. And so I had to step back a little bit from all that nuttiness. I wrote amazing music in that time. In fact, one of my favorite songs that I've written the last couple of years came out of that little fling that I was just talking about. It's a song I wrote called A Little, which you can find on my SoundCloud. I'm going to be re-recording and putting on my album. It sounds like a mix of Oh Darling by the Beatles and Somebody to Love by Queen.
Jeez, that sounds amazing. And wait a second, did you play that on your birthday live stream?
I did. I'm very enamored with that song, so I'm very glad that that came out of that. And I've had people tell me, oh my God, that sounds like this relationship that I had where blah, 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 blah.
I'm not surprised you wrote a shit ton. That's a self-discovery kind of thing that we go on. And I found the exact same thing. Like I tried. And what do you say when you date somebody that wants to be casual and you're like, yeah, it's cool. I'm cool. I'm fine.
It's like your album.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's that emotional experience. It's that redefinition of self in that moment and testing kind of the limits of where your head and where your heart are. And then realizing that for me, like I felt like every connection I make can be a stream. It's a little beautiful stream and they all flow into that same big river.
Yeah.
You know, the water's going in that direction. I remember during our situation, we were talking about like meeting up in Portland and where you were going to be there for a while. And we had all these like ideas and plans and nothing was practical.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing about long distance. Like, for fuck's sakes, like, is this really, what am I doing?
Yeah, I spent most of my like 20s in long distance relationships. Why did I do that?
It's just self-inflicted pain. But I totally am the same way with, I'm not a casual dater. Like I tried it, I did it. Occasionally it was like sort of fine, but really I don't want the drama and the pain of crazy dating and like trying, so over it.
That's what Lindsay and I did. We kind of both came to that feeling and we knew it was right and we knew we had a connection that was very special, but also we knew we complemented each other in like really, really profound ways. I work very closely with one of my great friends is a singer-songwriter named Kat Robichaud. You've probably seen some of our shit on Facebook. We do a cabaret show called Misfit Cabaret. I'm a musical director and she's a star. She was on The Voice, the singing show. And we do this amazing cabaret show. They're all themed. We do all these, she writes all these amazing songs for them and I arrange them with the band. But Kat was friends with Lindsay as well. And so when she found out that I had a date with her coming up, she like comes up to me. She's like, "You have a date with Lindsay?" And I'm like, yeah, I do. And then she puts her hand on my shoulder and says, "That's amazing." And then she texted me drunkenly later that night saying that she was the right combination of serious and funny for you. And the ability to flow in communication. I mean, we both are very unique communicators. For me, my communication is dominated and guided by my creativity, my art, but also by my mental difference, by my wiring. And so as a result of that, I am sentient enough and I am aware and growth mindset oriented enough where I can, I talk something about missing a cue. I'm aware of these things and I'm better with cues every year of my life. And I feel like I am paying very close attention on those as much as I can. Mm-hmm. I remember sitting in a car with a friend of mine after open mic once, my friend Chris, who's amazing singer-songwriter and comes up with all kinds of amazing shit, but he is all nerves when it comes to interpersonal communication, what comes in his case with women of interest to him. And we would sit in the car from like 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. after I'd drive him home after the open mic, just talking about that stuff. And to some extent, all those were kind of doomed because that classic thing of you just know when you talk to someone and you're in like a state of flow, that you are in that river flowing together in the same direction. You are managing the waves and you are in sync. And you can tell that in communication very, very quickly. And so when you find that, hold on.
You just know. I love that.
I hear that in you about Tristan. So that's super fucking cool.
And we are so wrong for each other on paper. Everybody around us was like, "What the hell are you doing?" Like, oh, it was not good. But both of us knew. We're like, I know. Like what you're saying. It's like, I can't fight this. This is clearly like meant to be, even though there's no good reason for it. But you just know when you meet that person. And here we are 2 years later. And like, I remember us having discussions early on. We don't need to prove ourselves to anybody. Like if we're still together years down the road, then it'll just be proof in the pudding. And it's totally been like that. So I can trust that feeling now. Like there's a difference in like, you just know and being in lust. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. You know, there's so many things in life where you know the notes or you know the song. And I like that metaphor. Music is the thing I know the song in. There's a lot of things I know the notes in, but music is the thing I know the song in. You know, like you hear someone sing and they hit a note and you're like, okay, you hit the note. What are you going to do with it? For you, like your voice to me is very singular. I could pick your vowel sounds out of a lineup of 100 singers.
Yeah, you're saying that because you're American. You're making fun of my Canadian accent.
That is not it. Because like fucking, you listen to like 5 years of Beatles songs. They don't sound British in those songs. Singing is a different voice. And some people have singing voices that are much like their talking voices. And I appreciate that a lot because sometimes that can reveal a lot of character. But a singing voice is its own thing. I don't necessarily sing the way I talk. I think there's bits of it in there. I can hear it in myself when I talk. But anyway, getting back to this, like I like having my hands in a lot of different things. I like being able to swoop around and have a conversation about sports, a conversation about politics, a conversation about dance and theater, and conversation about music. I love that dynamism in people. Sometimes people criticize themselves thinking that they're like miles wide, but they're inches deep. They could talk about a lot of different things, but they can have only kind of like a basic survey conversation. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think that's cool. I think that's awesome. And frankly, it made Jeopardy work out really well for me because it's like that sort of brain that can really, really thrive there.
Yeah.
If you know enough to bullshit your way through a conversation for 5 minutes on something that isn't associated with you at a party, it's a great level of knowledge. I have seen so many movies and read so many books that I haven't seen and read because people think I've read them.
Oh.
So I'm a liar is what I'm saying. Anyway,
Well, you'll learn stuff about social. I mean, especially having autism, like you have to think really hard about what is a social interaction. You know, like what does it take, and study it and practice things, and whereas a lot of other people like just don't think about it.
Yeah. And I saw this in Lindsay a lot, in that she has her hands in so many different things. We both have crises of confidence about ourselves every so often, and that's just natural and that's human. But I saw that dynamism and at the same time, that passion, but that lack of pretense, that ability to be goofy and funny, but also care passionately about the climate or about the natural world and leaving a better world to our children than we have right now. And so it's been a very beautiful and natural trip for me.
That's amazing. What a gift.
To be in a relationship where both of you give each other space to be yourselves and are there as part of a constructive framework and process to help get through some things, to give people space to process them and get through them themselves. Both of us let each other kind of stew in some things. I get frustrated and sad about things, but I give myself space and she gives me space to get off the mat and be all right.
Oh, that is such a gift. Finding somebody like that. It's funny because you were saying the song that I played that night. I know Sydney, maybe on our way back we played Sydney. I know we played Sydney at some point by Brett Denon at the Hotel Utah, but you said the other one that I played.
That was the one you came back through town.
Okay. So the first one I played was Single Life Revolution, which at the time was really, it's really a thing, really important to me to be single. But now it's like, it's all about my husband. Even though we're not married, but I look at him like that because I'm like committed. And it's a different part of life, different phase of life. How old are you?
How old am I? I just turned 40.
Wow. Yeah, I guess I should know that since I was watching your birthday thing.
I don't think I mentioned the year that much.
Oh.
I was mildly inebriated.
Which was part of why it was funny. It just like you worked that into the storylines. Okay. I don't want to leave stuff off your list. What was something else on your list that you really wanted to talk about?
How strict are things right now up there?
Oh, they're strict. A bunch of teenagers they were like hanging out in a parking lot of a high school, and they all got $230 fines.
Eek.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone who's gotten reprimanded as far as I know. I mean, like there was there were all the protests in the summer and everything like that. And Oakland was living in Oakland was one of the hubs of that.
Did you have riots in Oakland?
There weren't any riots. The most I ever saw, I went to a couple of protests where it was maybe like 1,000 people marching through downtown Oakland. The front was very cool. And then the back, there were a couple of, every protest, there's always like these like anarchist dudes. It's always white dudes in like black masks, like breaking shit.
Yeah. That seems to be the pattern that I was observing there. It's like, yes, you have the peaceful protest, and then after a certain like time of night or whatever, that's when the riots break out, and you get all that, exactly, the anarchist stuff.
I think there's a complicated and meaningful discussion to have about peaceful versus riots, etc., and that sometimes it can be a little too black and white about those things. However, this particular violence that I saw was just, to me, pointless and nihilist. I know people who are like Antifa, Black Bloc kind of people. I mean, Antifa is fine. I'm anti-fascist. I assume you're also not a fascist.
Not a fascist. No, not a fascist.
Awesome.
Also, don't riot. I don't riot.
Yeah, I'm a peaceful protester. But just like, okay, cool. You broke the window of a condo that rich tech people are renting giant condos in or whatever. Great, good job. You made some poor custodial worker's job a lot harder to clean up a lot of fucking glass. They cut themselves on it, they go to the hospital. Also, if there are rich tech assholes living in a condo like that, they've priced that in already. They know you hate them. They've decided to live there anyway. They've priced broken glass, an occasional flaming bag of poop into their lives. So unless you're going up the elevator into their apartment to yell at them, all you're doing is just damaging a bunch of property and inconveniencing some people whose lives are already hard enough. Anyway, but that's another conversation for another time. And Trudeau's beard looks kind of funny. All right. Do you miss playing out?
No, it's not to say that I don't love it, but I don't miss it because I have loved quarantine. I have loved it. I have loved teaching from Zoom. I have loved doing podcasts. I finished my album, just like you. Like, I'm in my happy place.
That's where I am. Everything except the writing, basically, of it, I've been, and that's been my life. I've been giving about 25 Zoom music lessons a week. I'm doing fine money-wise with that. I've been doing tons of stream shows, like making them all themed. Like I'll do like a show of one-hit wonders, a show of Queen songs, a show of...
Yes, you've been amazing with that. You've been so good for the people who are sitting there at their computers wanting something to watch. Like, you have been an all-star.
Thank you. Yeah, no, like, and I've been trying, and I just brought back the open mic too. And we did our first one of our Zoom open mics. We had 48 people sign up for a Zoom open mic that we haven't done in a year.
Oh my God.
That was great. So we're gonna do that every few weeks.
That's okay. Something about the open mic that I wanted to bring up was like how dedicated and amazing you are with your Monday newsletters about the upcoming open mic. Like, you never miss. You're so there with them. You don't just go, oh, I gotta write this thing.
Yeah, I always felt like you had to bring it with those. My predecessor, JJ Schultz, was a great host. By the end, his emails were one paragraph. And it felt like it was exactly the process you were talking about right there. And I didn't want it to get to that point. I need to say something. I need to try to be funny. I need to make it unique. I need to make the feature feel special, like I care about their music, because most often I do. Because, like you recall, we do features at the open mic there, and they play for a half an hour at 10 o'clock. And I always want to say something about them. Often it's a great singer-songwriter. Sometimes it's someone who is really dedicated and is still growing in their ability. And I want to make them feel good too, because open mic is a cross section. It's an entry-level thing for people. Yeah. It's their first big step. And sometimes that feature is someone's first show ever. I've been thinking about hanging it up and retiring for quite a while. Every year I'm like, this is my last year. And then I just kept not doing it. And now I'm just so pumped to go back and do it.
Yeah, me too. I really miss doing it. It's so cool. You had a predecessor that inspired you. Mm-hmm. And you're such an incredible open mic host. Like, there's nobody like you. And I feel like I'm so blessed that I experienced that, because now I get to bring that to the Vault in Nanaimo, which is a really, really special venue too. Also a super old building. Used to be a bank, which is why it's called the Vault. But it's such a special place. But there's pieces of the Utah in the Vault that I don't think people know about, because of how I was inspired from that experience there and from that amazing open mic host.
I went to Alaska about 2.5 years ago, and the plane flew over Vancouver Island, and I had a seat on the left side of the plane, and I thought I saw you down.
With my hair?
Yeah.
It's so much longer than it was.
You were just starting with those dreads back then. Remember that?
Yeah. Well, I guess I should go hang out with my mom now, because she's waiting for me.
Yeah, I should go hang out with my kitty.
Thank you so much. I could talk to you for hours. Actually, I have a friend a friend of mine who has Asperger's and feels exactly all the ways that you have described. And I'm so excited for him to see this, because I think it would mean a lot to him. Yeah, I think you'll help a lot of people.
Thank you.
Thanks for being open about that. And yeah, let's talk soon.
Let's do that. All right.
Okay,
say hi to your mom for me. I said hi to her earlier, but yeah, do it again, just to be safe.
I will. Okay, bye.
You have a great night.
I am missing the cue when everyone's waiting for me to make